There's one terrifying villainous creature that is yet to feature on a Doctor Who episode. Yep, you guessed it, it's the Double Goober! Just kidding, it's the Trickster. The Trickster is a villain mostly featured in the amazing series The Sarah Jane Adventures, which if you haven't watched, you really should do. Even though yes, it's sold as a kids show, I'd still rather watch it than watch Jodie's era.
We've never actually found out who he is.
Trickster is a creature from beyond the universe. Forever trying to break into our reality, manifest himself. He's one of the pantheon of discord.
That's a good name for a band.
Actually, not bad. He's an eternal exile who exists to wreak havoc.
The Trickster himself has only appeared in 3 episodes of Sarah Jane, all 3 of them being some of my favourite episodes of the series. Even better than a majority of Doctor Who episodes, mainly because the premise of them are all something I find so intriguing and are all still fresh every time it happens. Unlike Dalek and Cybermen episodes, which kind of get repetitive as they couldn't really take those villains any further, as they've already been in so many stories to the point of being overused. And though there were some cool new ideas, they were poorly executed to say the least. For example, Asylum of the Daleks, which was such a cool premise and idea, but the story was just lackluster in my opinion. But if it was given a 2-parter, it could have been amazing and gone to even darker and crazier places, like exploring more of the asylum and just feeling creepier when it just kind of didn't. I mean, it did have those creepy parts when the Dalek eye rolled over and they were like all dead and stuff. The first episode which introduced the Trickster is the story called Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane. All of these episodes are 2-parters, but they're basically one big episode just cut into 2 because they're each 28 minutes. The first Trickster story was really good, and by itself, without the Trickster, is just a brilliant idea. Basically, it's what would happen to the world if Sarah Jane never existed, because her friend from her childhood made a deal with the devil, or Trickle. Okay, that doesn't work, forget I said that. Meaning that Sarah Jane's friend, Andrea Yates, the selfish banana bread, survived while Sarah Jane died in her place. The Trickster does this to create chaos, as that's what gets him off, and it's basically his full-time job. The second episode in which the Trickster lays his traps is called The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith. In my opinion, this story is better in some ways than its predecessor. Instead of Sarah Jane being zapped from existence, she ends up trapped in the past where her parents are still alive. All because of this little lying goblin prick, who's pretending to be a kid, but is actually the Grask and a part of the Trickster's brigade. This little weird fricker. The third episode is The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. Now this one goes crazy. It's definitely the best of all 3. And no, not just because it features David Tennant as the Doctor. I mean, okay. That does bump it up a bit, but I think it's a really good final confrontation of Sarah Jane and the Trickster. It feels like a satisfying ending to their trilogy, and an emotional one at that. Yet at the same time, it leaves you wanting more of the Trickster, and still wanting answers to who he actually is and where he's from, and a million other questions which I know now will probably never be answered. The Trickster, in my opinion, is still to this day one of the best Doctor Who villains who hasn't actually shown up in Doctor Who, and may never do. But I will hold out hope, even if it takes my whole life. He'll appear in it someday, I just know it. Yes, the Trickster is shown up by reference of his name in the episode called The Legend of Ruby Sunday.
There is the toy maker, the god of games. There is Trickster, the god of traps.
Even though he hasn't shown up directly, in the episode Turn Left, the beetle which is put on Donna's back is revealed to be part of the Trickster's brigade.
It's one of the Trickster's brigade.
Yet no Trickster is ever seen, or even referenced to apart from that. You know, he's never like, oh yeah, this thing from the Trickster's brigade put there by the Trickster. The Doctor isn't like, oh, I'm gonna go after the Trickster now. He's completely forgotten after that. Now why is it that the writers and the Doctor have danced around him and never given him the true light of day that he deserves? Well, we don't really know. It's as if they keep teasing him and yet are keeping him locked in a cage as he's foaming from the mouth ready to lay his traps, yet has no power to. Like for example when Ruby Sunday in the new Series 1 is being held up by the drag queen god and she says that Ruby has a secret song inside of her.
That's wrong.
What do you mean?
There's a hidden song deep inside her soul!
Which is then heard and sounds almost exactly like the Trickster's theme song. But after finishing that season, it feels like that was just a red herring as it leads to nothing, like mostly everything in that season. I'm a massive Doctor Who fan myself, but I do truly believe that if the Trickster were to come back and the right writers were on the case to make something that fits his character and elevates what has already been done in the Sarah Jane Adventures, then I think it would surely save Doctor Who. We're kind of in need of a villain that can really bring the fear and danger back to Doctor Who, instead of it feeling like there were never any consequences. Bad guys winning, but not like fully winning, but like actually part of their plans going through. But no, apparently the Doctor and the companion just complete everything. I mean, they've always done that anyway, but it just feels like there's no walls to actually hit. Or when they hit a wall, there's always like a coincidence where like, oh, I figured it out. Oh, this guy told us the way to get out of this. Like in Lux, where the fans in that fake reality or whatever say, you know, you already told how to defeat Lux. And they were like, oh, yeah. So basically they didn't even do it themselves. Just kind of a, you know, a get out of jail free card, isn't it? Everything, no matter how big or small, seems to always be reversed in this series, in these new seasons. Making it every time they do try to go, oh, the Earth's in danger again. It's going to be destroyed. How is the Doctor going to make it out of this one? He will do, and apparently with no casualties, because character deaths aren't allowed anymore, and everything just gets reversed, because that's an amazing story. Yeah, you see these consequences that we show you, you know, these dangers, people dying, yeah, that's not real. But then every time you're going to come back to it and be like, well, aren't they just going to do the same thing, which they just have done on the Interstellar Song Contest episode, where it's like a cool scene, all the people, the 100,000 people apparently are thrown out of this dome, and it's like one of the best shots in Doctor Who. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, no, they're going to reverse it, like they did in Empire of Death. But if they don't reverse it, it would make it so much better. It would give it so much depth. And just like there are consequences, like there is true danger, and not just red herring danger, which just never seems to pan out, and just makes the show feel like a nothing. It's become more and more and more like a kid's show. We used to feel more adult back in the day, more grittier, you know, more actual deaths and more scarier villains. The previous Doctors all felt pain and grief and sadness of having lost people, but Ncuti, the 15th Doctor, he's just leeching off of the guilt of previous Doctors, and that's it. There's no real depth to his character, because he rarely faces true death. And if he does, it's always set back to ground zero, including him, because his character hasn't really progressed, or the progression that is there is kind of fake and it doesn't feel real. And when this stuff does happen, when he turns bad or when he cries, it just feels undeserved, or like it's just come out of nowhere, like an absolute switch. Again, in the Interstellar Song Contest, a lot of people are saying that his switch from good just into like wanting to kill, it just kind of spawned out of nowhere. But again, there was no real build up to that. The Trickster needs to come in and show the Doctor what he's been missing. He needs to torture him and show him death. Show him a hard time and make him suffer and give him a real challenge. Because every time it's either someone else figures it out or the companion figures it out for him, he always just gets a way out. The Trickster's whole thing is that he changes reality. But what if we built upon that? What if the Trickster actually wins partly and changes reality in a way that the Doctor can't reverse? That makes him actually lose, because that's what this Doctor is truly lacking. He's lacking loss, which kind of sounds weird to say, but it's true. Companion-wise, David Tennant lost Rose. It truly affected him, and we could see it in his character. He also lost Donna in a way, as even being around her could kill her. And yes, she did come back again. She still felt that loss and that grief of not being able to have Donna. I feel like he's lost like one of his best friends. And Ncuti doesn't have that. It's just Ruby's just gone off and lived a life, and he's got nothing else, like no other things from his Doctor's perspective. Who was Ncuti Gatwa lost as the Doctor? In 2 seasons, what has given him the push to have real change and to develop as a character, and to want to keep fighting and to actually experience loss and defeat? Not much, if I say so myself. Back to the God of Traps himself, the Trickster. I think that this season's finale has really been set up to be made for him. I mean, the first part is literally called Wish World, meaning Trickster has granted people's wishes, as he does, but for malicious reasons. And the second part is called Reality War, because when the Trickster grants a wish, it changes reality, so it makes sense, right? So this is what many people have theorized, that it has to be something to do with the Trickster. And if not, then it's really a massive missed opportunity. And if not at this opportune moment, then will we ever get to see the Trickster in Doctor Who? Maybe we'll have to wait for the right writer to come along to bring him in. Or will Doctor Who even be on by then? It might have been cancelled by then, we never know. If you've been watching this season and know what's going on in Doctor Who news, you'll know that the finale features an unholy trinity that the Doctor will face off against. One of those members is Conrad, which is, I think, really dumb. The second member is Rani, or the Ranis. But I feel it would definitely make the most sense for the Trickster to be the missing part to that puzzle. And for the Trickster to not only come in and say that he's been the one granting these wishes and changing reality, but also that he's been watching the Doctor from the shadows and has been kind of pulling the strings in a way. And that would explain why there's fourth wall breaking and all these weird out of place things happening, like the long list of things without explanations in this 2 seasons we've had, which I feel like Russell has just set up so many things. The ones that he has revealed are just like, they feel unsatisfying, and then there's just so much left unexplored. And then it's like, they're like, oh, why don't people like the show? You know, why is this not as big as it used to be? I wonder why. Well, What do you think about the Trickster coming back to Doctor Who? Tell me your theories and ideas in the comments below. I'm Colenso. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time.
My mum and dad